Well, guys, I really don't know what to say. We've had some interesting news come out of the world as Stadia. Google Stadia is shutting down the Stadia Entertainment and Games division. So I'm baffled because this is the studio that Jade was kind of taking over. This is her role. She was taking Google Stadia's Games and Entertainment division to create first-party titles for the platform. They just shut that whole division down. That's 150 people out of a job. Hearts go out to them. They did state that they are looking to find them new positions within the company. Okay, great. Jade Raymond, though, just bailed. She's gone. Whether that was a force out or her own choosing, we don't know. I did reach out for information and was not able to gather that information, but we did get a response. The response was stating more or less that nothing's changed, except really there's no first party games. Everything's still Stadia. You're still going to get your third party titles. You're still going to get Stadia Pro. They're still looking at adding more devices. So everything's going, but honestly, when that news dropped, my heart dropped with it. And it was, to me, is it the end of Stadia? I kind of questioned it, to be honest. I really kind of thought, that's it, it's over. Well, like, why go to Stadia? It's a third party machine as it is. So moving forward, we were banking on the fact that, Jade Raymond was bringing this cloud native background with the fact that Google's there. Cloud natives, their native cloud service allows games to be developed at a higher fidelity with more available options for developers, able to push tech further than what they can say on a console. That was their whole premise behind creating Google Stadia, and that's still there. Now they stated that they're going to work with developers, third-party developers, but there's still no first-party games. Scott, what did you think of this news, man?
Well, it's important that they did make the differentiation. They explained they are still continuing as a service. That is important because Games and Entertainment division sounds like the beginning and the end of what Stadia encompasses, but it really it means more or less they're just going to rely on the labor ability of other developers. And I think we've seen something like that in Guilt. Not necessarily first party game production, but it kind of fit the bill and wasn't exclusive on the service. That was something we both had an interesting time with, and I certainly enjoyed it.
Sure did.
And it's a little disheartening to hear that they're just kind of going with the less first party emphasis than we had expected, because we've been talking about Stadia off and on for a better part of a year or more now, and it's always just with a degree of uncertainty. One of those kind of standout things that we could be certain would be a good force for Stadia is if they came out with their own brand of video game. Their own actual production would sustain them and cement a good spot for them in the future. But they have obviously weighed this decision heavily, I'm sure, and they're just deciding to go the other way. So I'm very optimistic still. I've been blown away by the Stadia so far in what they've delivered, and what they said they were going to deliver seems to be exactly that. We don't lose too much. So I'm hoping that there's some wisdom in this one, and that we are still going to see potentially exclusives, but we're going to hopefully see some developers add their weight behind Stadia with this new decision.
Yeah, you know what, Scott? I'm kind of erring on the same side as you a little bit, but a little bit kind of more in Google's favor here a little bit. Because Drew, when you came out, this Jade Raymond, her coming to Google was a huge acquisition for them. Yep. Her background, it was a big deal, and to have her be a part of the fact that she was going to be helping put out exclusive, first party games to this brand new kind of cloud gaming platform that we were all very interested in but didn't know a whole lot about at the time. But over, Stadia's lifespan so far, how much have we actually talked about these first party games coming to the platform? There's been very little discussion whatsoever about this stuff. And it's not saying that there wasn't stuff in development, they weren't looking at options, but we didn't really have anything to go on as far as what to expect anytime soon coming from this department, right? Which makes me think that maybe the focus wasn't solely there from the beginning, and then as things have progressed, especially over the past year, 2020 was a tough business year overall with the pandemic, and moving into 2021, things aren't any easier right now just because the year's changed. So maybe this move is, you know, I know Google's got a ton of money, and it's weird to say maybe they want to save money, but if they're looking at a venture that, you know, to make good first party games, you need, you know, studios, you need talented people. And I'm sure those 150 people that they were employing were those right people, but those resources need to always be there. And when, you know, push comes to shove and things need to be changed, then maybe they're looking at changing something like that because the development just wasn't where it needed to be. Stadia is a great platform. I think especially being new to it, I love the access you have to it. It's so easy, and it's just one of those things. I kind of talked about it earlier in the week, that it's very much like Game Pass in the sense that it's one of those libraries that as it builds, it's only going to get better. So yeah, we might not be getting, you know, Google Stadia first party games, but we're getting good games on the platform, and we are getting some exclusives that, you know, that are coming. So it's just one of those things where it's just, I think if we wait a little bit longer, it's just only going to get better, right? So I don't think Google Stadia is out of it by any means. I think they're right now one of the premier cloud gaming platforms.
Sure.
So it's a weird move, and it was big news this week, but I think overall there's not going to be as big of a kind of ripple effect as we, you know, maybe initially thought. What do you think, Nate?
Well, man, so I think that xCloud, you know, with Xbox releasing their numbers recently, over 100 million gold users, 18 million Game Pass users, with getting over 1 million every month over the last few months. Like,
that's crazy.
Astonishing numbers. I don't know what Stadia has, if they're close to that or if they're double that. Like, who really knows, right? But I just kind of see them, you know, looking at the future and being like, well, I don't know, guys. I don't think we can compete, at least to that degree. We can compete, you know, we could put ourselves on cruise, you know, get all these third-party support games because companies want to just make money, and it's an easy platform to make it on. So I don't know, man. I think they're just gonna put it on cruise and just make, you know, money instead of investing all this money. Like, it took Microsoft years to get to where I think, you know, at a point where they have good exclusives, man. They've missed a lot of games, and I think Stadia just kind of maybe sees, like, do we want to go down this 10-year path of hit and miss games? And really, like, with xCloud, like I said, being such a, you know, a big thing now and popular and growing, it's
so integrated, right?
It's exactly. The whole family of Xbox is so integrated, and what Stadia has to offer is great, but it's just, I don't know if it's like, you know, if there's one or two games that are good, are they like amazing that I'm gonna switch over? You know what I mean? Like, it's
no, you're not gonna switch.
It's a tough call, man. You know, you're not, and that's it. Like, it gets so hard to come into the game at this stage. Like, you know, you're on PS5, and Series whatever, Xbox whatever, right? So it's like, my goodness. But I think what they kind of, in my opinion, it's like a Steam Epic Games launcher approach, but it's a cloud streaming approach instead, or you know, online streaming.
Why would you switch when you can play the same games already on your other consoles? That's the biggest changer for me, is you go to these platforms for usually one particular reason, and that's the exclusives. And when there aren't exclusives out there, especially first party exclusives, then why bother, right? We go to PlayStation because we're playing God of War, we're playing Spider-Man, we're playing, you know, first party titles that you can only get out of PlayStation. You're only gonna get Ratchet and Clank on one platform, kind of thing, right? Like, that's, if you want Spider-Man, you have to get a PlayStation. Okay, but if I want to play Cyberpunk, either way, you can get it. Most of the time, you can get games. That's a bad example, but you can get games on other platforms. That's my point, is that you can get all these games everywhere else. So when we're already getting Immortals Phoenix Rising, it's everywhere. So why would I want to switch over to Stadia when I'm already on my Xbox and have it there, or PlayStation?
Unfortunately, you don't, man. And honestly, something that Xbox kind of talked about, and we've talked about a little while ago, is that Game Pass it's gonna be on your TVs soon, man. This is gonna be just a streaming platform. Xbox is almost not even gonna be a console. It will always be a console, but
I don't know about that.
It's gonna be a streaming, dude. It will. I will. With 86% increase in numbers and hardware, they're gonna make their money off that. But anyways, just. That's my thought, boys. Holy cow, we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, no, we definitely could keep going, right? I'd love to talk more. We definitely want to hear what you guys think. Did Stadia make the right move or not? Hit us up at insidethegame.ca and let us know.